The movie begins with Ray, a dock worker working on a port. We see him skillfully operating a large excavator, assembling shipping containers. Ray's boss approached him, asking him to work extra hours and come back in 4 hours instead of 12. He explained that he had a large workload to handle, with half of Korea's shipments coming in at noon. Despite the urgency, Ray declined, citing union regulations and suggesting that his co-worker, Tedesco, could handle the task. Frustrated, his boss tried to persuade him, but Ray stood firm, reminding him of the union regulations. As Ray headed home, he found his ex-wife, Mary Ann, and her husband, Tim, waiting for him to drop off their kids, Rachel and Robbie. Mary Ann greeted him by pointing out that he was late. When Robbie got out of the car, he went straight to the house without acknowledging Ray. Rachel greeted her father. When Mary Ann opened the refrigerator to see what was inside, not much was inside. After that, she walked upstairs, spoke with the children, gave Ray instructions on what to do, and urged him to phone her if he had any questions. Ray went to Robbie and asked him to play baseball with him. As they were playing, Ray mentioned that Robbie would have to finish his report after the game. They started to argue jokingly, but the conversation quickly turned serious. In the heat of the moment, Ray threw the baseball, hitting and breaking a window. Ray returned to the living room to find Rachel watching TV. When he asks about Robbie, she casually mentioned that he had taken Ray's car without permission. Ray's initial concern quickly turned to frustration. He realized he had to find Robbie and bring him back. Ray set out to find Robbie. Ray rushed outside where he noticed people staring at the sky and taking pictures. Looking up, he saw a dark fog with storms brewing. Suddenly, a heavy wind began to blow. Ray called Rachel to show her the storm. As they watched, the storm intensified and began to descend. They hurried back to their house just as lightning struck a car. The storm eventually subsided, and Ray checked to see if there was power, but there was none. The telephone was not working, and there was no signal on his phone. Even his watch wasn't working. Ray went outside and saw that every car's engine was destroyed. He saw his friend Manny repairing a van and told him to replace the solenoid. He found Robbie and asked if he was okay, then instructed him to go to his sister and wait there. Ray warned Robbie about taking the car without permission and without a driving license, telling him that if it happened again, he would call the police. Ray went to the location where all the lightning had struck, where a crowd had gathered. Pushing through the onlookers, he discovered a crystal. As they examined it, they felt something moving beneath their feet. Suddenly, the ground began to crack in a line, causing buildings to collapse and water pipes to explode. A giant tripod emerged from the ground. The alien machine towered over the surroundings, then used an energy weapon to fire at the people gathered in the area. Ray managed to escape the chaos and return to his house, where he gathered his children. Spotting a van that Manny had been repairing earlier, they quickly got inside. However, just as they were about to leave, Manny arrived and told Ray to get out, insisting that the van was not his. Ray tried to persuade Manny to come with them, but their conversation was cut short as the tripod approached. Ray was forced to drive away, leaving Manny behind. As they fled, Manny got shot by the tripod's energy weapon. As they were driving away from the scene, Robbie began asking a lot of questions. Rachel, already overwhelmed by the situation, started shouting and crying. Ray drove his children to Mary Ann's home, hoping to find refuge there. Upon arrival, they discovered that Mary Ann and Tim had already left for Boston. Ray began making peanut butter sandwiches. Rachel, however, reminded him that she was allergic to peanuts. Ray gave her the bread instead, but she insisted she wasn't hungry. Robbie said the same thing. Frustrated by the situation, Ray threw the bread. Ray and the kids retreated to the basement to sleep. Suddenly, a bright light accompanied by a deafening sound engulfed the house, causing it to shake violently. In a panic, they ran to the pipes and hid. A fire came through the window. After the chaos, Ray went upstairs to investigate, only to discover a plane had crashed into the neighborhood. As he surveyed the wreckage, he found a TV news team scavenging for food amidst the debris. He asked where they were, and the reporter explained that they had been with a National Guard unit in Pine Barrens. They had witnessed the military's attempts to combat the alien invaders, describing how the aliens had some sort of shield that made their weapons ineffective. The reporter also revealed that the tripods, as they called the alien machines, had attacked major cities worldwide, causing widespread destruction and chaos. She showed him footage of the storm as it emerged from the ground, telling him the machines were there all along. Then the crew left. Robbie saw a military car passing and asked to join them. Ray, angry at this suggestion, tried to stop him. Robbie, feeling frustrated, argued that he was only trying to get them to Boston where their mother was, implying that Ray was only thinking about himself. As they drove, Ray and his children encountered a large group of people walking on the road. The people, desperate and panicked, begged to get into the car and even tried to stop the car by force. Ray increased the speed and tried to drive past them. However, in the chaos, he saw a woman carrying a child in the path of the car and swerved to avoid hitting her, inadvertently hitting a pole. The car stopped and the people quickly surrounded them. They pulled Ray, Rachel, and Robbie out of the car and attempted to take the vehicle for themselves. In a desperate attempt to protect his children and the car, Ray pulled out a gun. However, another man in the crowd also pulled out a gun, overpowering Ray and taking control of the car. As they walked with the crowd, a tripod appeared, causing panic among the people. Everyone started running, including Ray and his children. Ray managed to get them onto a boat. Shortly after getting on the boat, a tripod emerged from the water, causing the boat to capsize. Ray and his children jumped into the water to escape. The tripod began picking people from the water, killing them. Ray and his children swam away and managed to get out of the water. As they continued walking, Ray and his children saw US Marines engaging in battle with the tripods. Robbie, eager to join the fight, ran towards them. Ray instructed Rachel to wait and ran after Robbie. He caught up with Robbie and tried to convince him to stop, but Robbie was adamant about joining the Marines. While he was talking with Robbie, Ray noticed people approaching Rachel, mistaking her for being alone and asking her to come with them. Ray left Robbie and hurried back to Rachel. As the battle between the US Marines and the tripods raged on, the Marines were ultimately overwhelmed and obliterated by the superior alien technology. Ray assumed that Robbie was also killed in the attack. Ray carried Rachel and sought shelter in a nearby house. They were offered refuge by Harlan in his basement. However, it became evident that Harlan was not mentally stable, likely due to the overwhelming events that had unfolded. He began talking about fighting the tripods and asked Ray to join him in his delusional plan. After a while, the tripod arrived. Ray, Rachel, and Harlan remained undetected for several hours, even as a tripod's probe and a group of aliens explored the basement. During this time, they discovered that the aliens had started cultivating a red-colored vegetation that was rapidly spreading across the landscape. Harlan's mental state deteriorated further after witnessing the tripods harvesting human blood and tissue to fertilize the alien vegetation. He began shouting, "Not my blood," in a state of distress. Fearing that Harlan's outburst would alert the aliens to their presence, Ray made the difficult decision to kill him. He covered Rachel's eyes and approached Harlan. Ray then returned to Rachel after killing him. While Rachel and Ray were sleeping, a second tripod probe discovered them. Rachel got up and looked at the tripod as it was in front of them. She screamed and fled outside in a panic. Ray, awakened by the commotion, grabbed an axe and attacked the tripod. Outside, the tripod approached Rachel and managed to capture Rachel and began to leave. Ray heard Rachel scream and ran to the tripod. Ray chased after the tripod, driven by the determination to rescue Rachel. Along the way, he stumbled upon a belt of grenades in an overgrown Humvee. He intentionally allowed himself to be abducted by the tripod, knowing that this was his only chance to get close enough to rescue Rachel. With the belt of grenades in hand, Ray and the other abductees planned their escape. When the tripod opened up to absorb more humans, Ray allowed himself to be taken. As he was partially absorbed, the other people held onto his leg, preventing him from being entirely engulfed. With a determined effort, they pulled him down, and Ray revealed the pins from the grenades in his hands. He had put the grenades in the exposed interior of the tripod. Shortly after, the grenades exploded, causing a massive explosion that destroyed it from within. Ray and Rachel continued walking after escaping from the tripod. As they were walking, another tripod appeared on the horizon. Ray noticed birds fleeing in all directions around it, indicating that its force shields had been disabled. Realizing this vulnerability, Ray alerted the soldiers who were escorting the fleeing crowd. The soldiers quickly responded, shooting down the tripod with anti-tank missiles. As the tripod crashed to the ground, a hatch opened, and a pale, sickly alien emerged, struggling halfway out before succumbing to death. Ray and Rachel finally approached Mary Ann's parents' house, where they were reunited with Mary Ann and Robbie, who had miraculously survived. The family embraced, relieved to be reunited after the harrowing ordeal they had endured. In the closing scenes, the narrator explained that the aliens had ultimately died because they were vulnerable to the countless microbes that inhabit the Earth. Despite their advanced technology, the aliens had no immunity to Earth's bacteria and viruses, leading to their downfall.